As you can see, we are set up and ready to go. My name is Bridget. I am the co-host of Africans on China. Wow, 13 participants. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to see everyone here. I am the co-founder of Africans on China. We are a platform on a mission to elevate the African voice on China. Today, we have the great honor of starting and initiating our Meet the Leader series, where we engage people, specifically experts in the China-Africa space, to dialogue with members of our community. Today, our session will be moderated by one of our university leaders. His name is Divine Omale. Divine is currently in Nigeria, and he has been doing tremendous work in making sure that he's kept abreast of the issues in the China-Africa space, as well as, you know, what's going on the continent. So Divine will be leading and moderating our conversation with former Ambassador Demuyakor. I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. Please help me correct that.
It's Demuyakor.
Demuyakor. So now, Divine, you should know how to say it.
Yeah, Demuyakor.
Demuyakor, yes. Good stuff. So we have 17 participants here, people who are really interested in what you have to say, Mr. Demuyakor. So I'm going to now basically lend the camera to Divine for him to start this conversation. Have a great conversation, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Bridget, for bringing me on board to, co-host this lovely event with you. Well, it is the Meet Our Leader series of the African and China space. And one of the things we have done over the last month is to ensure that we get young Africans who are enthusiastic about bringing a positive change in the Africa and the China space, creating a win-win situation for both China and Africa at large. And we want to say, one of the things we have also said is that we, in getting sure that these things are done effectively, we bring people who have experienced great changes within this continents we have enlisted, and people who have experienced things in China and as well part of the African countries. And our first leader that is coming on board today is no other person than His Excellency, the former ambassador to China, from Ghanaian Ambassador to China. Thank you so much for joining us this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are, Mr. Anani Demuyakor. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, we have lots of people joining us, and my co-ambassadors as well. We have students cut across Ghana, we have students cut across Nigeria, and others who are joining us from every part of the world. They are just waiting to listen to you, to your experience, and what you have to tell us about the Sino-African relationship and the situation. One of the topics we are discussing today is rethinking Sino-African relations with people-to-people focus. Most times it has always been business, it has always been trade, it has always been issues surrounding COVID and the rest. But now we want to look at the people-to-people relationship focus. Let us see how Africa has benefited from China and how China has benefited from Africa. And one of the questions we'll start with today, if we're not too fast, is to bring back to the first our topic today, which is the question is, sir, is it fair to say that people-to-people relations in the current Sino-African cooperation has been neglected? Is it fair to say that people-to-people relations in the current Sino-African cooperation has been neglected? What do you have to say, His Excellency?
Moderator, with your permission, at least I want to make a few comments. I will say, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, brothers and sisters from Africa and without, good afternoon to those in Accra here, Ghana, the golden country of hospitality. Good morning to those in the US, and I think that goes to you, moderator. And good late afternoon to those in Europe, my family included. And of course, in Asia, it's good night, almost midnight there. And to my Chinese friends who are there, I say that Ju da jia do how I want to begin by first commending the group, that is particularly the Africans on China group. I am particularly impressed and excited because this group is a useful group, and they have boldly taken the challenge to rethink about Sino-African relations. My emphasis are on rethink because all along we've all been thinking, and they are saying that maybe our thinking is not enough, so we should rethink. Second, I want to acknowledge all of you, my audience here, and I will say that I appreciate all of you. Moderator, I would want to say that I really feel very privileged to be here. Lastly, I want to really express my honor to be guest leader of this your maiden series. Moderator, I pledge to share my knowledge and experience with all listening to the best of my ability in ways that would adequately address this topic, rethinking Africa-China relations. By the way, the topic says Sino-China. Sino is just the same like China, and is the academicians who like to use Sino. It's just like saying Afro for Africa. So let us get that clear. I think that in answer to your question, in my opinion, it would be fair to say that there is some people-to-people relations between the two sides. Just that it has not been well publicized. For us to assess the current situation, I want us to go and look on the ground. First, estimates of population show that we have almost 2 million Chinese in Africa and 500,000 Africans in China. Most people underestimate the number of people, the number of Africans in China. But let me talk about the Chinese first. When we come to Africa, the Chinese that are in Africa are in 3 categories. The first is the state-owned officers, engineers, architects, and the like, who work with the state-owned companies. The second group is the private individuals who come to do businesses, set up investments. The last group is what I'll call floating Chinese. And to borrow the African way, we normally say they are the hustlers. These floating Chinese come and many a time engage in business areas that are reserved for the locals. So many times, most of them are illegal, as it were. But all these people in China, all these Chinese in China, there is some interaction. It's not recorded though, but there certainly is, there are interactions. However, there are loopholes. First of all, the state-owned companies, when they come, they seclude themselves, they live together, and they just do the projects, and then after that, they go. They don't actually interact one-on-one with Africans. Basically, I would say that all the interactions are formal. Now, when we get to the middle ones, that is those who come to do their business and they set up investments, they also try to interact with some Africans. But I want to reveal that when you look at the Chinese in Africa, most of them do not stay more than 3 years. It's averagely between 3 and 5 years. In other words, you can consider them as target laborers. They come for a purpose. Maybe he wants a certain amount. He comes, runs around, gets the amount, and he goes back to China. So our studies have shown that there's a lot of recycling of Chinese in Africa. Some leave and others arrive, and it goes on and on. So because of that, they are not able to establish real one-on-one relations of Africa. That is where the slag is. And like you said, we hope that their governments will start encouraging them. Let's go to Africa. Let's go to China and look at the Africans. They are well documented, actually. Contrary to what people think, the Africans in China have made more efforts to have a people-to-people relations with Chinese in many ways. There are documentary evidence, some researchers have written about this. One famous one is our own from Ghana, one Dr. Adams Bodomo. Currently, he's a professor of African Studies in Vietnam, University of Vietnam. He has written extensively because he used to be a professor in Hong Kong University, my alma mater, and he did a lot of research. This is followed by another Mexican, Castillo. Robert Castillo, he arrived in China in 2006 to learn Chinese. After learning Chinese, he settled down and did a lot of research on Africans in China. By the way, Bodomo has a very interesting book that he's written. The title is Africans in China, and that in 2012. Hello, sorry for the distraction. Bodomo has written this book entitled Africans in China, and it is it was published in 2012. That book is very revealing, and I recommend that interested listeners should read it. Then there's another lady, Jenny Nash, who also reports for CNN. She has also written some articles on Africans in China. Let's look at how the Africans are able to establish this people-to-people contact. The first is the Africans that come, initially, they come for economic purposes, and they are traders. Through their trading, they used to use interpreters. Through the interpreters, they were able to have direct contact with the factories, the industry that they were ordering their goods to. And in time, they were able to establish this direct contact with the manufacturers. And if you go to Guangzhou now, most of them are able to deal directly with the Chinese. You see them in restaurants eating together, and they've really established a lot of relations, people-to-people relations. The next one is, surprisingly, is football. I'm sure most of you have heard of footballers in China. And then the Africans have used this football to establish a lot of people-to-people contact. The pioneer was one Babakar Tawale, a teenage midfielder who comes from Gambia. He was the one that actually popularized football in China and outside China. Later came a Zambian striker who moved from Turkey, and he also made a lot of inroads, and then he was able to get a lot of Chinese interested in football. Then, of course, you all recall our Asamoah. He later made a bash because upon arrival in China, he became one of the world's highest paid footballer. And through that, those doing business in the football circles, their funds, you know, they were able to establish these people-to-people relations. The second one I would say is music. There are a lot of African DJs in nightclubs. So a lot of Chinese youth go to the nightclubs because there are African DJs. And that way, they're able to interact with Chinese a lot. There's one that came from Nigeria, actually, Owuche, if I get the name correct. He graduated as an engineer. His father denounced him because he decided to go into learning country music. So amidst that, his friend invited him to China. He came to China, started singing country music, and then eventually he was spotted by a music producer, and then he took him. He has made very big bang in China, actually, and then you'll find him, his songs are very popular. He started singing Chinese songs, and then he earned a name, Emmanuel first, but they call him How Girl. This How Girl, how actually means good or good, but the girl stands for either big brother or big music. So it's How Girl, and it's quite fun. And when there are a lot of Chinese that are interacting with him. Of course, I would end by mentioning the other one that most people don't want to hear. That is African men marrying Chinese girls. It's one of the areas that they've used to establish a lot of people-to-people contact. And I know it has brought problems, but now we're having a lot of Afro-Chinese children. The numbers are increasing, and it's possible that in some future, we will see these Afro-Chinese children playing a major role in China. So, moderator, in conclusion, I want to say that so far this has been the attempts made by both sides to establish people-to-people contact. They agree that the various governments have a lot of work to do to get the people-to-people contact really going. Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Well, it was very explanatory. For those who are joining us and just coming, we just had His Excellency, the former ambassador, Ghanaian ambassador to China, giving us one of our first question, answer to one of our first question, which is how he sees the relationship that exists, the people-to-people relationship that exists among China and Africa as of today. And for summary, I think he mentioned 4 things, which are economic purposes. We have one of the people-to-people contact that has been established is for economic purposes. We have football, talking about the likes of international players who had played in China before. Also music, you understand, where a main mention of Oguche, one of the good country music men in China who were originally from Africa, and also marriages where our men get to marry Chinese women. Well, thank you so much, sir. That leads us to our next question. And the next question is, these things we have mentioned, the economic purposes, marriage, football, and the rest, what is the future? Is there an improvement? Do you see any improvement in this, like to promote the people-to-people relationship? How do we get an improvement? With your level of experience, you have seen that there is economic need for Africans to be in China. There is football needs for Africans to be in China. There's musical needs for Africans to be in China, and also the marital needs. So what is an improvement? Do you see any improvements considering what we have mentioned as the established people-to-people contact between Africa and China so far?
Indeed, I would say there's a lot of improvements. The main one being education. I think that the presence of a lot of Africans in China is now educating a lot of Chinese, because we have got quite a good crop now of Africans working in China, and then they set very good examples. The unfortunate thing is that we get the negatives being published, you know, And the embassies and the various governments are also making a lot of efforts to improve those relations. One of the very potent countries has been through our students, because there are now many more students in China than there are in the Western countries. So most of them go there, they study and interact with Chinese, and some have proved to be very brilliant. We've had good, I used to go to attend the graduations, and a lot of them get very high grades. So the youth are now beginning to respect the Africans, especially the students when they come. Gone are the days where the students used to be not well briefed about the situation in China. But these days, all those who come know what is in for them, and they do a lot of, I would say, advertisements for us, as Africans. So I think that there is quite an improvement.
Oh, so you said there is a future, and the future is education. So the education will continue, and with that, we have lots of improvement in the people-to-people relationship within Africa and China. Well, that is very, very fantastic, and I believe our audience are following us keenly. This leads us to also one of the important questions that we want you to really talk about extensively today. And there is this place in China. You have been in China, Your Excellency. There is this place in China that is called the Guangzhou. It is nicknamed Little Africa. Well, it is meant for economic activity between the African people and the Chinese. Well, over the years, we have discovered that there is a lot of issues within the Chinese and the African expats in Guangzhou. And we want to know your opinion as a former ambassador in China. What is the cause for the disharmony? Why is there disharmony in Guangzhou? Why do we have the Africans in Guangzhou having issues, with unity amongst China people in Guangzhou? So can you tell us, in your own opinion, what is the cause for this disunity and this disharmony in Guangzhou, sir? Thank you.
Well, I remember very well when this incident happened in Guangzhou. I had a lot of my colleagues and friends calling me for my comments. And then I would say, in short, that China is a situation of a very closed, rigid society, meeting with an open, flexible, and laissez-faire society. That is the basis of the disharmony. Those of you who have been to China, you know China very well. There are laws, regulations, and ways of doing things are very, very, very strict. And even the players don't have the opportunity to flex their instructions when it comes to difficult times. For example, the Chinese are group-centered rather than individual. So you find that they think about the responsibility rather than we in Africa, where we think of our rights, individual rights. So when they take certain actions, we find it very difficult to comprehend. And we think that at least there must be a human touch. They look at it that it is a group, the entire group that matters, not you, the individual. And so that has been some of the things. And again, when you get to know the Chinese, it's easier to deal with them, because I was watching some of the clips that came out. One of the problems that I realized that was the language, because you find that whereas the Africans were talking logically, the Chinese, I don't think he understood most of the things that the Africans were saying. So he would just respond, or you just continue acting. There was this particular sentence, it was the Nigerian guy who said, he said in English that the passports do not belong to you, that is the Chinese. They belong to the government of Nigeria. And the Chinese in reply said, oh, we are not talking about government. This is a clear case of the Chinese not understanding what the African was saying. And that actually escalated the argument. You see, so one is the systems that the Chinese have is quite different from the systems that we have. Culturally too, they are quite different. And then the language is also another obstacle. But I think that with time, with these people-to-people interaction, all these things will smoothen out. And that particular incident has really given a lot of education to both sides. Because I think the Chinese really at that time knew that they had gone overboard, and they now know that Africans are likely to come in very strongly should they continue. So both sides have learned lessons, and I'm sure it prepares us to move into the future in harmony.
Oh, wow, good. Thank you so much. I think you also give us a way forward by elaborating on the people-to-people relationship, understanding the fact that we have so much issues burden about language and understanding, because like you said, what we say to Chinese might not be the way they interpret it. So there is a language issues that bounds between the two. Well, it is very, very simple that one of the reasons why we're here today is because the Africans on China, we are concerned about the future. We want to actually know how some of these issues that is happening to Africans on China can be curtailed. And one of the things we have been learning over the past months is understanding how these things work and how we can come in. So in your own way, sir, you were once an ambassador in China. You had the embassy under your care. You were in charge of the embassy of Ghana in China. What were you able to do while you were ambassador in China to promote peace, to promote harmony, you understand, in China? Because the Guangzhou experience is like everywhere. There is xenophobic news everywhere on CNN, on Al Jazeera, about Africans being maltreated in China. Now, I'm not saying you are not there now, but we are saying while you were there as ambassador, while you were in the embassy of Ghana in China, what were you able to do to keep these things in check, to ensure that there is harmony between Africans who are living in Guangzhou and other parts of China, and as well as the Chinese?
In one word, education. Educating both sides.
Okay.
What I realized, well, fortunately, I actually studied Chinese in Hong Kong University. After that, I've been one of the fortunate ones, diplomat who served in one country for 3 times. I was first in China in the late 80s as the consular officer. I went back there again as a deputy ambassador and finally the ambassador. So admittedly, I was able to gather a lot of experiences. So I'm not a typical, diplomat, as it were, because I had the exposure. And that is why I diagnosed the whole problem to education, because one of the things is that the students, Ghanaians, take their bags and just travel to China to do one thing or the other. We do not, as Africans, take our time that before I go to a place, these days, let me get onto the net and read about that country. So what I adopted was that, especially when the students, or there was an occasion for us to meet Ghanaians, I would always educate them about the systems in China, the do's and the don'ts, and tell them that you find yourself in a different environment. And as much as possible, you have to try to do what the English says that when you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. So as much as possible, we should try to be very flexible. And so I adopted this system of always educating the Africans that I met. And also anytime that I was able to interact with a lot of Chinese. So I visited a lot of students, and anytime I went to see the school authorities and took the opportunity to educate the school authorities about the kind of freedom that we have in our schools, our learning system, and then our lifestyle, and that sometimes we do not mean to offend them in any way, And I think my students always reported to me that anytime that I came to visit, they were giving much more priorities and more open to them. So when I became deputy, having realized that, I decided that if I went to an institution, I'll meet other African students. And so they used to organize meetings, and I'll go, of course, in Africa, like I told the Chinese school authorities, we end meetings with parties. The Chinese end with a meal, dinner. We end with parties, so they should be more flexible when the African students are. So I remember very well that some of the students, when they come to China, get frustrated because they are quite limited in most of the things that they do. And it's more so with the female students. And because of that, when I was ambassador, I sent my spouse to one of the places that she went to was now famous Wuhan, to meet the Ghanaian female students and the African female students. And then she actually gave them talk about China, about their life in China, how they should conduct themselves, and how they should plan for their future. And they gave them career counseling as well. And then advise them to be of good behavior and how to plan for future, for the future in their families. And there was one particular independence celebration, that's 6th March. And I decided, together with my officers, that look, let's split ourselves and go and visit the various schools and the various Ghanaian communities in China, rather than having a reception where they come, drink, and we have our long diplomatic speeches. So I went to a different school, part, and then my deputy went to another officer went to a different part. And then we went to spend the independence with them on the ground. So that was, it helped them a lot. And then after that, I got a lot of reports from them saying that, it was very useful and it made them relax. And now they are well respected in the city that they are, because their embassies have come and visited them and called on the various school authorities and the governors of the provinces. So these are the practical ways that I went about it. So I will encourage other African embassies to adopt that, but the key is the language. And I was fortunate to have that language. That is why I say that I'm not the ideal, but it also behoves on our various governments to make sure that we send people who can speak the language to China. The language is a very, very, very big obstacle. Mr. Moderator, I hope I've done justice to your question.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think one of the ways you were able to work effectively was adopting the principle of association. So rather than the principle of assimilation, so you associated with the people, you sent your family there, you sent them to the schools or where we have Chinese people, and they were able to adapt and learn so many things. Well, thank you so much, sir. I think Bridget has a question. Yes, I think so.
I do. His Excellency, so I guess my question will veer off the topic a little bit, but I think to ask, because I see some of the attendees in the chat, and some of them are friends who have been having these conversations with me for the last, let's say, few days, right? So I don't know if you've seen the article that came out in Business Week this week about Africa starting to have this is the headline, Africa is starting to have second thoughts about taking that Chinese money. I know this is in no way about the people-to-people relationship, but I just know that so many of the young people who are in this chat saw that specific article this week, and that's why they're here. So I was thinking maybe when we're done, Divine, I don't know if you're done with the people-to-people question.
Not yet.
Okay, so maybe after you're done with that, we can, I know people here really care about that. So maybe after you're done, we can get to that question about what happens with Chinese money and Africans now. So Divine, please, I don't want to veer off the people-to-people thing until you're done. So let's continue on that.
Okay,
yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bridget. Thank you so much, sir. Like I said before, it has been educating so far. Like the audience, we had lots of comments from the comment session where people were affirming to some of the things you have mentioned. One of our students here said he was an art student, like he's a master, he's into craft and art. And while he was in China, he had a lot of people who appreciated what he brought in from Africa to affirm what you have been saying here. And we want to say thank you again. We have just 2 more questions to go. And well, on a lighter note, sir, we want to know if you can speak China, and we want to make you actually greet the people in Chinese language before we continue, sir. If you can speak, that's fine. If you can't speak, we can go ahead, sir.
And he just said he can speak the language. He definitely can. His Excellency can.
Okay, he should greet us. He should greet us in China. As a matter of fact, we are taking a short break. Just greet us in China before we go ahead, sir.
Now when you are going to say sure.
Oh wow, that
was
that.
We're going to say sure. What that I'm going to show Chungwen. Chungwen, Tinda Chungwen, Nimendo how or do Nimen sent can.
Oh, that's lovely. What's the interpretation, sir? What's the interpretation?
The interpretation. I first asked who are the Chinese that I'll speak to, because neither you nor Bridget are Chinese. then I said, anyway, I want to wish all the Chinese listening, good health.
Yeah, and which language was that? I know in China they speak multiple Chinese languages, so I would really hope that we as Africans are able to respect that.
That was Mandarin.
Awesome.
But I was fortunate to learn Cantonese because I studied in Hong Kong University.
Oh, nice.
At the time, it used to be, it wasn't in the hands of China yet, so nobody wanted to speak Mandarin at the time. So to get around, I had to learn Cantonese, so I speak Cantonese as well.
Thank you so much. Well, for our listeners, Mandarin is like the most spoken language in the world today. We have the highest number of persons in the world that speaks Mandarin. It's even more spoken than English language. So when you look out for the words that have more speakers, we have Mandarin, and that is the bedrock of Chinese language. So they speak more of Mandarin. Thank you so much, His Excellency, the former Ghanaian ambassador to China. Well, sir, we have that so many people have agreed that Africa is currently not benefiting as much as it should in its relation with China. People think Africa is not benefiting a lot from the relationship we have with China. So going forward, sir, how should African leaders deal with China to secure and maximize Africans' interest? How do African leaders, how should they deal with China to secure and maximize African interest?
Well, I think, thank you very much for this interesting question. And I'm sure that it will dovetail into Bridget's, comment also about Chinese money. Yes, it's true that China is not benefiting to the maximum from China. It is a subject that I have discussed with a lot of people. I've been asked questions and conferences that I go on meetings. This question keeps coming on. And after studies, I look at it and say that for me, it looks as if it's just not China we Africans are not benefiting from. Even when it comes to dealing with the US, UK, Europe, Japan, South Korea, with my experience as a diplomat, all these relations we have, we don't get the benefit, the maximum benefit. So for me, the problem is us. And if the problem is us, it means the answer lies within us. I think that it's China and Africa started having very good relations. And at the time, they were basically political, diplomatic. There wasn't even cultural education. And then later on, this economic came in because initially all China was doing is helping our freedom fighters. And if any country was in trouble, they would help and that kind of thing. But there wasn't that well-structured aid to African countries. The Chinese have group mentality, and it's something that we Africans need to learn about Chinese. Their governments, their people, they have a group mentality. The Chinese government used to give loans to individual African countries. Then in 2000, China decided that, look, let us have a formal cooperation, economic cooperation with African countries. And that led to the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. I don't know how many people on this platform have heard of it. Most people hear about it, but they don't know what it is all about. Now, basically, the Chinese just wanted to structure their way of financing and assisting Africa. Then the initiative was started by them. And we Africans kind of relaxed. So the Chinese started dictating the nature, the structure, and then the operation of the FOCAC. I've had practical experiences with the FOCAC when I was a deputy and later when I was ambassador. And I see a lot of loopholes in the whole cooperation agreement. Not the fault of the Chinese, but it's rather the fault of Africans. Now, we have the FOCAC, and yet we still have bilateral relations with China. So you find African countries playing with China more bilaterally than together. But the Chinese like to treat us together. They would prefer to handle us together. But we still go individually to ask for, peanut money, this and that, and this and that. So the first thing I think is that we just have to get our act together before we deal with Chinese, because the Chinese are very formal in whatever they do. They think through it, they structure it, and then they leave it for the opposite side to also structure their bit. Let me be a little bit practical. In 2006, that was when FOCAC was inaugurated in Beijing. And I went there as a consultant. I had done some work for AU. And so I was invited to that particular conference in Beijing. And the entire paper was prepared by the Chinese. It was presented to us. We read it. We didn't come out of any changes. And so the declaration was made. So at that time, I thought that, okay, after all, this is the beginning of it. So maybe things will change. Now, the Chinese have set up a FOCAC secretariat that handles all matters relating to FOCAC. As of now, I don't know, but the latest I know is that there's no single African country that has got a FOCAC secretariat in their countries. I can speak for my country. The FOCAC is handled by Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Finance. So there is a communication gap there. Sometimes when you ask for a project or a program for the FOCAC, you have to send it to Foreign Affairs. And if it has something to do with money, it has to go to finance. And finance will have to come back, So the Chinese get frustrated and impose things on us because we don't monitor. We don't even partake. We just go for the conferences and that's it. you know. So I think that when it comes to talking about this money, the Chinese tell us in advance. The 2015, the last meeting we had in South Africa, China had devoted 60 billion to Africa. I don't know which country has benefited from that money. It went from 5 billion to 10 billion and jumped to 60 billion. And we do not even know how to assess that money. So it is the Chinese that rather come and give us that money and tell us what to use the money for. We don't go to demand, or well, let's say a request. We should go and request. If, let's say, I'm a bank and you are coming to borrow from me, you want some money from me, you must be able to prove to me that, you know, you are worth the loan. But once the money is devoted in China, at the end of the 2 years, 3 years running, the CDB or their Ministry of Commerce has to give a report of what has been used, how the money has been dispersed. And it will not sound well if they go back and say, oh, the money was here, they didn't even use it. No. So they try to impose on us certain projects. And we take the projects. You know, you find a lot of African countries take loans for projects in Africa, and loan implementations delay, the money is hanging, we are paying interest on the money, and yet we have not utilized the money. So for me, the best way is that African leaders should get their act together. And I would prefer if we went as a block. Let's say we want a railway line. We should go as AU, as ECOWAS, or as SADC to Chinese and say we want a railway from Cairo to Cape Town. And the country that the railway passes through will pay. That way, we can utilize the money. But if we go as individuals, you know, that is what happens to us. AU itself does not even have a secretariat for FOCAC. Now China has an ambassador accredited to AU. I'm not too sure AU has an ambassador accredited to China. EU has, you know, the Arab League has. AU does not have. You see, so I do agree, and I do also know that some of the monies that we get are not of use because they tell us what we should use the money for. We don't go and tell them. You see, so I think that is one of the main problems. So yes, the Chinese loans, we don't even understand the Chinese loans because there are concessionary loans, there are commercial ones, there are, you know, free, they call them aid, you know, that are interest-free. There are interest-free loans. And so we just have not packaged ourselves, even when we are dealing with the Americans, the Europeans, the Japanese. You know, our friends who have dealt with the Japanese, they have the same problem, you know. And as ambassadors, when we sit out in our various countries, we have the same problem of communication, you know, getting things done the way that those donors want it to be done. And then I noticed that in some of my research, it's one of the reasons why the West now set up a lot of NGOs. You know, instead of giving the monies to us to implement, they give the money, they send the money through NGOs. And that is because we don't package ourselves and we are unable to, you know, get the things done properly. So I don't know, I'm a little bit, you know, doing about
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That's what I have. I just want to be practical about it. I don't want to go into all the theories. The practicality of it is that Africa, we have to work as a group, we have to get ourselves together, and we have to tell them what we want and for what, and our payment terms. Because we don't even discuss payment terms with them. Normally they write it and they will give, because they bring us their agreements, translated from Chinese to English. And when you read the Chinese text, sometimes they are different. I've read some of them, and I always find that they are different. You know, so I don't know whether this answers your question, but
well, thank you so much, Your Excellency.
So,
no, it's actually self-explanatory. Many of the things you have said were some of the things that many of the ambassadors had taken out time to discuss in our previous meetings, and it's just an affirmation to some of the things we have discussed in the African and China Ambassador Network so far. And you are coming to give us more light and throwing more light on some of the things we have said before. And that's why I was laughing in affirmation that many of the things you have said are actually true and fact. African leaders need to come together to work as a bloc. It is more of an African thing. Like, African leaders have to ensure that we get ourselves on track before approaching these people. For those who are joining us, I know when the ambassador was talking, he was mentioning FOCAC. Many of you don't know what it means. It is Forum on China-African Cooperation. And it is a forum that should ensure the Sino-African relationship. And that's why we are here today, to talk about the Sino-African relationship and the people-to-people focus, and how people can actually benefit from this. And we have been talking so far. Thank you so much, sir. The last question for today would be that there are so many people on the comment section. Many of them have been affirming to what you have been saying. Many of them are ambassadors and my colleagues who have been going through lots of educative programs and sessions to ensure that the future becomes better for the African and China space. Sir, the question I want to ask is that, what is your advice for us? What is your advice for the younger people out there in relation to the people-to-people orientation course of the African and China relationship? Because whether you like it or not, the dispensation we are of young people, they actually have a wrong mindset about what is happening in China. But here you are today telling us that these things are quite different from what we see. So what is your advice to the younger ones and those on the comment section on how we can further promote this relationship that exists between us? Thank you, sir.
I have a saying that I always use to advise people. As Africans, we just have to get into the heads, the minds, and the hearts of Chinese. It's the only way we know how to deal with them. Currently, all we are doing is getting onto their hands, onto their backs, and onto their legs. We just have to, there must be a paradigm shift. And the bottom line is getting to know and understand the Chinese. Fortunately, there's a lot of literature out there that you, the young ones, you can read, understand, and be able to know how to deal with, to interact with Chinese and with China as a country. So, because of lack of time, I just think that these are basic things that I want to give out. Let us educate ourselves. One other thing that I did when I went to China, before I was going to China, even for the first time, I had a lot of biases. People told me a lot about China. And therefore, I went to set minds that these people are backward. These people are, they are very strange. That was the word. They are very peculiar. That was, those were the words. But I decided to put that off. Then when I got there, I decided to have an open mind, and that helped me a lot. At the airport, my first visit, I'll tell this interesting story. At the airport, the plane got there very late. So very early in the morning rather. And the embassy had told me in advance that they will not be able to come to the airport to meet me, but they will arrange for Chinese protocol to meet me. I get there, it was a November morning, very cold, and I was led to a reception. I stayed there. A Chinese lady comes. She's holding a glass of some liquid. The liquid was yellow. And I said, no way. And it was steaming. So I said, these people, they are really strange, like I was told. Look at this lady. She's coming to give me hot beer to take this morning. There must be something wrong with her. So she kept demonstrating that I should drink the water. I was becoming more and more angry with her, trying to get this hot beer down my throat. So anyway, she got fed up and then walked away. Come the morning, the officer came to pick me. I complained. I started laughing. I said, why? He said, that was hot tea. It was to warm you up. So this is how biases can make you not appreciate, this. So this lady was genuinely sympathizing with me, that when I take the tea. But when I saw the color of the tea, I thought it was beer, carrying the bias. So please don't approach the Chinese with a bias. Open yourself, look at them, assess them, and then deal with them. But it's education, education, education. Moderator.
Well, thank you so much. We just have to have an open mind whenever we are dealing with them. That's what the ambassador just told us. Well, on the comment session, we still expect let's say a few questions before the ambassador leaves us. So I want to say we are very grateful for the time you have taken out to spend with us and for enlightening us about certain things. Well, I guess somebody just wanted to know in the comments, in the question section and the question box, the person was asking that so Africans need to know the inner workings of the loans that the Chinese give. This is why we have the issues we have and regretting the money that they give us. It's like a question, but I don't really understand what the person is
so I think maybe
saying.
they're trying to confirm. So Ambassador, I think what this person wants to do is confirm whether what you're saying is that Africans need to know the inner workings of the loans. Is that what you're saying is the primary cause of some of the discord we're having with the loan agreements and things like that? I think they just want to confirm if that's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, in a way, yes. Because from the word go, if you wait for somebody to come and say that, look, take this money, do 1, 2, 3, 4, is it in your interest? Because I've had examples where China wants to give us money and they tell us what to do. I even had, if you go back, talk about scholarships. The Chinese government gives us a lot of scholarships, but they decide which schools, which subjects. Wrong. You see, because every country has got its human resource requirements. So we should look at our human resource requirements and decide that, okay, we need people, we need engineers. We don't wait for China to come and tell us that, oh, we think that we need doctors. So that is, so when we should, what I'm saying that we should go and request for the money. We don't wait for them to give us the money. So if you request, you are going already with a business plan, as it were. So you know your expenditures, what you use for. So when the money comes, you know what you use the money for. Sometimes we don't do feasibility studies. The money comes. We have not even done feasibility studies for the project. How do you implement it? And how do you know that that money will be enough? How do you know the money is not too much? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. We have a question here, and the person said, okay, Aiskia Anson, he said, many Africans mentioned the racism they face in China. Could this be because of the language and cultural barriers or because of the closed Chinese culture, meaning the Chinese people know their culture and practices alone? Like the person wants to know if the issue for the racism is because of the language barrier or the culture barrier or because Chinese practice only their culture.
Well, what I would say is that every country has a culture. Even if we go to Africa, we have different tribes, and all of us have different cultures. And sometimes the cultures make us behave in certain ways, because we are influenced by our cultures. Yes, the Chinese are influenced by their culture, but I think that if there are ways that we can interact with them in such a way that they appreciate our culture, You see, it's because to begin with, we don't even make them appreciate our cultures. So to know a culture of a people, the language is very, very important. The language is very important because it's the core of the culture. You know, I don't know whether I got the question very right, but this is the understanding that I get, that they behave because of their culture. They are influenced by their culture, yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much, sir. One of our ambassador, Demuyakor from Nigeria, wants to know, he said, I would like to know how we as researchers can get access to the agreements or treaties African countries sign with China. Is it possible for the researchers, those who are looking in the Sino-African relation, is it possible for them to get this agreement that has been signed by the African countries and with China? He wants to know, sir.
Every African government has copies. Several copies. All the meetings that we go, we always they give us copies in advance. You know, and then if it's in China, you can go to the secretariat. There's a focus secretariat, and you can request. They'll give. They have them in pamphlets. You know, some of them, most of them are in Chinese, but they have translated quite a number. And so, if you are researching, you know, even on the web, if you go to the secretariat's web, I don't have it offhand, but if you go to their website, you can get all this information. And all the agreements that we sign, the various countries have copies. So if you particularly want this, and you just have to maybe let me know, I can assist you get access those documents.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I think if I will answer for Demuyakor, he would want it. So if you can actually help us get it, it will go a long way for researchers who are actually doing work on Sino-Africa relationship. Thank you so much for having you around, sir. It's indeed a privilege, and many of the things you have said are self-explanatory, and you have been able to give us in-depth analysis on what is happening so far. So I don't know, Bridget, can I hand over to you now?
Yes. Thank you so much, His Excellency. Thank you so much, Divine. You have really led us in a super engaging conversation that has really opened a lot of our eyes to the people-to-people relationship and even taken it to the economic side. So there was a question here that was asked when you were talking about the loan agreement from Jeff. Jeff says he gets the point about engaging Chinese deals / agreements as a collective of African countries as opposed to individually. It does give us more leverage. However, how do we do these in the face of our countries having very different interests and domestic economic needs that needs to be addressed distinctively?
Well, that is why we have our various I would say AU, for example, should be a platform. Like I said, ECOWAS, SADC, and then the East Africans. What we can do is, let's take ECOWAS. I'm more interested in ECOWAS. Let's say ECOWAS. We decide that, look, because the FOCA comes every other 2 years, 2-3 years. Yeah, I'm sure this year they should have had it in Senegal, but because of COVID, you know, it has not come on. Before even the meeting, ECOWAS, for example, should have a meeting and discuss, like, look, we're going to get some funds from China. Which country should benefit? And use it for what? You see, so not until we learn to work together and then decide how would approach China on one front, you know, we will remain, you know, divided and not benefit, you know, from the loans. Because one crucial thing is that when you go, I know China, when you see the politicians or the Chinese, you go for this forecast, you talk. They say they're giving you 60 billion. Then you go there as, let's say, Ghana. Oh, we want 10 billion about. And they say, okay, is that so? Okay, fine. Go to CDB, that's China Development Bank. And when you go to CDB, they talk finance, they talk commercial. You know, they're not going to say that because the president said it is this. They talk finance. So they will ask for the collateral, repayment. You know, they ask for all those. And so if you are not prepared and you go, sometimes they bounce you back.
Yeah, Ambassador, I think what it is for us young people, even though we get the opportunity in working as a collective, we also understand that our countries need very different things. For example, some of the infrastructure in, let's say, East Africa is not present in West Africa. So we can't say we're all going for one specific thing. I think that's what Jeff is trying to say. If our needs are not the same, how can we present perhaps one plan that represents 2 billion people who have very different needs and very different interests on the continent?
Oh, no, I see it. Maybe what happens, what my suggestion is that you go with a paper. The paper says we want 10 schools for Gambia. We want agric for, okay, let me use East Africa because it's for Mozambique. We want a bridge for let's say Kenya. You see, so you go as a group, but with a list of the requirements of the various countries. Because the countries will have submitted their list to ECOWAS. ECOWAS will have discussed it, and then you prioritize them. That's the kind of thing I mean.
Okay. Yeah. So Jeff, I think the answer here from what I'm hearing from His Excellency is even you take all of the different needs and put them together, but you still present it as one collective, right? Yeah. Even though it's different. Okay, so I think that's another way to think about it. Thank you so much, His Excellency. There's a question here. I think I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, but he wanted to raise his hand. Folks, we'll take another 5 more minutes of questions. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Raphael had his hand raised and he wanted to speak, but I don't see him in the chat. Raphael, I'm going to allow you to talk. His question is also in the chat, but I'll allow you to talk so that you can verbalize and perhaps give context to the question that you want to ask. Okay, go ahead, Raphael.
Hello. Hi. That's I'm calling from China, and I'm honored to join this group, and I'm honored to also know that Ambassador is one of our advisors in our advisory board in African Forum that we are creating in China. My question was, I would like to know how best can entrepreneurs, African entrepreneurs, benefit from their business-to-business relationship with the Chinese entrepreneurs. How best can this be, optimized, and also so that the gain will be more in both sides balanced? Yeah, that's my question.
Thank you so much, Raphael. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I think I omitted when I was talking about FOCAC is that the Chinese government, the eighth chapter of FOCAC has another provision for private entrepreneurs, and there's money provided under the heading of China Africa Development Fund, CAD Fund. This money is targeted to promote, business, private business, businessmen interacting, assessing their amounts, and then using them to their benefit. Now, I noticed that there are very few, very few, both Chinese and African businessmen who are aware of this fund. Very few. But the fund exists to help these private entrepreneurs. Because the problem that the African entrepreneurs have is usually finance. So they set up this. It started with, I think, $1 billion, and then it's gone to $5 billion, and I think recently it has jumped to $10 billion, and it's a revolving fund. you know. So it is a system whereby the Chinese businessman and the African businessman come together with a joint venture and they go and access the fund and pay through the Chinese business entity. It's a very, you know, but most Africans don't know. And then even if we know, we want to go there singularly to go and assess it. But the Chinese will tell you that you need a Chinese entrepreneur. And when it's a Chinese entrepreneur, they also tell you need an African entrepreneur. Unfortunately, the two sides are not very good at joint ventures. Yeah. So, Raphael, the platform is there. It's just that we, as usual, we do not package ourselves well. So we are unable to assess the benefits. Moderator.
Okay, thank you so much, His Excellency. So at this juncture, I don't know if I see any other questions. I'm looking to see if I see any other questions in the Q&A. Raphael, I hope that answered your question. Felipe Bo wants to speak. We'll take that as the final question. Again, thank you all so much, and we'll close it out. Okay. Oh, and Chidema had a question. Yikes. Okay, we'll take Felipe's question first and then Chidema. Go ahead, Felipe. Okay. So it looks like Felipe may not be ready. So let's go to Chidema. Go ahead. Chidema, you can speak now if you can hear us. Okay, so for the sake of time and to respect the ambassador's time, I'm going to read Chidema's earlier question. I think she asked about Africans in education. She asked if there are any Africans in the education sector in China who can help African students trying to get into universities in China.
Thank you. It's another area that because of time I could not go into it. I have tried to get various African universities involved, particularly in my country. Not much success. For example, when I say that we should get into their minds, you know, this should be done by our academicians. For example, why is it that a lecturer in Nairobi University cannot go on a sabbatical to Shandong University and thereby invite Chinese to come, you know, on a sabbatical in University of Kenyatta? You see, so there's that big hole, and yet FOCAC provides for that. So that amount of money goes to just giving African scholarships. Why is it that we cannot invite Chinese students also to come to our universities, even summer holidays or year abroad? We send some of our students year abroad, you know, but I think it's not enough. So unless we start that kind of interaction, the universities will not recognize Africa and African needs. They will not recognize that we need to get students to come. So it is their scholarship secretariat, they have got a hold in their scholarship secretariat that decides that, oh, today we are giving Ghana 10 scholarships, this year we are giving Nairobi, Zimbabwe 15 scholarships. You know, we're giving Somalians, you know, just one scholarship. We should go and request, because a university should be able to link up, just like our universities are linked out with European universities. Why can't we do that with Chinese universities? So okay. For me, that's the answer.
Okay, His Excellency, thank you so much. Yes, so thank you all again so much for joining us for this very engaging and I think very insightful conversation on people-to-people relations in the China-Africa space, as well as we delved into the economics and the politics of it a bit, but I think that's just part of the nature of this area. I see that Felipe Bol said in the comments that he's an advisor to China-Africa Cooperation. He's dealing with well-known Chinese organization dealing with African projects. He left his contact information there for people who may be African entrepreneurs or students looking to cooperate with those in China. As His Excellency said, cooperation is the key, right? We're already kind of very much embedded in each other's affairs. So how do we make sure that it's mutually beneficial, like Divine said, is the key. So His Excellency, do you have any last remarks before we usher in the closing of this session?
Well, not much. I've said it all. And I just look forward to those who have been part of my audience, and those who have been my audience, and then you, the organizers. I want to thank you for the opportunity given me. And then I'm still open to such discussions. And then particularly, you know, with my age, I particularly want to support the young ones to take over from us. You know, and therefore, I want to end with my keyword that our leaders have to start, you know, doing something about China. The fact is, or the matter is that China is growing stronger and stronger. They are not going anywhere. They are going to be with us in Africa, whether we like it or not. Chinese, I've told people in private, are like a wine cork. When you push it in water, it will find a way of coming out. So we are stuck with them. So we better find ways of dealing with them before they deal with us. So that is my advice, that we should, you know, just package ourselves, and we'll benefit from China.
Thank you so much, His Excellency. Divine, is there anything else you want to say in closing out this session as the moderator?
Well, on behalf of my team and the students in the African China Ambassador Network, we want to say thank you so much, Your Excellency. Amiable Ambassador to China from Ghana. God bless you so much. It was an enlightening moment, and we want to say thank you so much, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much, Divine. So before we leave, I would love for everyone to stay in for just 2 or 3 minutes. We want to acknowledge the hard work of our youth ambassadors. So His Excellency, one of the ways in which we started this platform was actually we're working with youth, African youth in universities in Africa. Like you said, right, they're the ones who are going to determine the continent's relationship with China. So last year, we basically recruited 7 university students from universities across Africa, among which were Divine. We have Michael Odro from the University of Ghana. We have Udemy Udo from the University of Ibadan. We have Kofi Boateng and Udemy. They're both in the chat right now. We have Yusuf Gariba from Koforidua Technical University. We had Paul Kamu from the Technical University of Kenya. And we had Andrew George Brown from the University, All Nations University in Ghana. And what they did for the last year, for every Saturday from November to January, they were in sessions with us talking about these issues, perfecting their speaking skills, perfecting their writing communication skills, contributing to various platforms such as the China Africa Project, so that they can take your place, so that they can lead and do the things that you want them to do. So Ambassador, I want you to just, you know, say a kind word for them. Today is their last official day in the training program. We're now letting them go into the world to be great ambassadors of the China-Africa relations. They're going to get their certificates of completion from this program today. So Ambassador, please help us to congratulate them. Everyone else, please help us to congratulate them. Divine is an example, a fine example of how well-versed and interested they become in these affairs.
Yeah, fellow Africans, young ones, I feel very proud of you. And then from the description, I've seen that you put in a lot. And I think that I would encourage you, and then I'll tell you that the future lies there for you. And there is a lot we can do to take our various countries to benefit immensely from China. So I want to congratulate you and tell you that please don't disappear after you have collected the certificate. We still need your assistance, and then I'll personally be contacting some of you from time to time as I set up a think tank that I want to, I have a think tank that I've established, and but for the COVID, we'll have started work, and I'm sure I'll call on most of you. It's Africa China Center of Excellence. My Africa is KA rather than CA. You must start going to the origins. So, young man, you are invited, and please, thank you very much. Congratulations. And with the Chinese, we say, Jia Yu.
Yeah, yo. All right. Well, thank you so much, His Excellency. And again, congratulations to all of the ambassadors. His Excellency, we know you're about to put out some fantastic projects. How can people stay in touch with you and the work that you're doing in the China-Africa space?
Oh, by email, by telephone. You have my email, you have my telephone number.
Yes, so we can share with them?
Yeah, okay. It's Ghana 233.
Okay,
Yeah, then 243.
243,
409.
Oh, okay. You're giving them, no, I mean the attendees, the people who are here. You want to give them your personal phone number. Or do you have an email they can reach you by?
Yes, an email. Anani Smiles. Anani is ANANI Smiles.
Okay, Anani Smiles at what?
At yahoo.com.
Okay.
Anani Smiles. ANANI, then Smiles at yahoo.
Okay. Awesome. So I just put it in the chat for everyone who would love to stay in touch with His Excellency, especially as he launches the African Center for, you said it was
Africa-China Center of Excellence.
Africa-China Center of Excellency. We'll be excited to keep abreast. Finally, we have also launched our media platform to elevate the African voice on China. I have just put in the link into the chat. Please engage with us there. Please follow us on social media as we continue to do this important work. As you all know, we strongly believe that Africa and China's relationship is going to define the next decade, and perhaps if not more, for the African continent. So we hope you can continue to support all of us. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. So without further ado, if Divine and His Excellency don't have anything else to add, I'll say that we adjourn this meeting. Yes? Okay. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're so grateful. Yes, and for the rest. Yes.
Thank you for the support.
Thank you all. Thank you all attendees. We really appreciate it. Have a great day now. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.